So I'm Melissa. I'm thrilled to be with you. I know everybody except Mary Lou. Why don't we just do, how about alphabetical introductions?
Okay. First,
Does that mean I'm
Rebecca-
first?
It's Rebecca first.
No,
So always
I
at the front of the line.
That's all right. Well, good morning, everyone. I've had the pleasure of meeting all of you, at least briefly, and I known Mary Lou for a very long time. I'm the executive director of the Mid-Hudson Library System, where I've worked for about 25 years, executive director for 5. And I head up a project here called the Library of Local, which empowers 15 libraries, thanks to a partnership with the Climate Partners of the Hudson Valley. The Library of Local program is in 15 of my libraries. They specialize in building community resilience through collections, programming, and networking, and are overlaid with New York State climate smart community locations. So we're trying to accelerate climate action using libraries as a platform or an accelerator in that manner. And I also run a national program called the Sustainable Libraries Initiative, which is helping more libraries in our profession, or library leaders in our profession, take climate action and understand what that looks like in a library setting. So we have a certification program as well as continuing education and leadership coaching on those topics, which is all volunteer work that I do.
Geez, that's a tough act to follow.
You can do it, Mary Lou.
I'll try. Always been inspired by Rebecca from the very start. I've been in the Ramapo Catskill Library System since 2004, I think, something like that. And started out, I've gone from small to medium to large libraries, and started in the Wallkill Public Library, initiating all of the placemaking tools that I had come across, and I was able to participate in the International Placemaking Conference in Detroit some time ago. I can't remember when that was, but I remarked that I was the only library representative there. And that's always bugged me, because I just think we are a place, we are a central location, and we do make place, we do build communities. So I've just seen this as a natural and always very exciting. And then several years later in my medium library, Rebecca came up with the sustainability initiative. And I was really proud to be part of the initial creators of that group, and just following along and trying to figure out now in this large inner city library, how can we initiate some of these tools and be able to really bring the climate friendly sustainability placemaking initiatives to the city of Newburgh. And they're ready. They're doing so many different things and around the community. And what I'm trying to do is bring them together so that the library is that place, like Rebecca said, where this is all sort of, transpires around what the library does, and the library serves as that core connector. So when you all initiated this discussion, I was like, yes, yay, I'm in. And Cynthia, to meet you when you were on a call webinar that I did years ago, and I had one of your quotes, your placemaking quotes in there, and I didn't even know you were on the call, and I saw you in the chat, and you're like, nice quote, and I was like, oh my God, Cynthia's on my call. I was so honored. So now to meet you.
Well, thanks.
It's major. Thank you.
I love it. Well, I'm going to be Everett before Nikitan and just set a little context that Sustainable Hudson Valley has been incorporated since 2007, but we were kind of screwing around, figuring out what we were doing well before. And in 2005, we found our way into Newburgh to do this highly interactive, many stakeholder plan with a high-powered consultant who ran circles over me, but kind of new agey consultant person. And so I met a lot of people that I've recently reconnected with. And our mission is to speed up, scale up, jazz up, and leverage progress against climate change, creating communities where people and nature thrive. So that's trying to be directive around climate as the central issue, but also, recognizing that if you do that right, you get a lot else right. And so we've, Cynthia and I co-authored a little guidebook called Resilient Places, Putting Community First. We have hatched a 2-session training that she's piloted once that we're just itching to do more of. We have done, we've always tried to figure out one place where we can kind of like move the needle. And so we planted the Solarize model in a lot of communities, and similar Drive Electric, kind of helping people get familiar with some of the tech. But really our sweet spot is community-based social marketing, where we're really engaging people in groups and networks. And so the Repair Cafe is one of our most recent kind of, we inherited it, so to speak, and we're honored to be growing it. The last thing I'll mention is this was, I think, my crazy pandemic project. We created the Regional Climate Action Roadmap and Toolkit with around 90 skilled volunteers, to really just try to put out some ideas that would help people to be working for more of a common vision about where we have to get to, and not just what's the next, grant or the next points or the next whatever. And it's a living document, but it's web published. It's kind of like a drawdown for the Hudson Valley. And we did a wonderful conference in Newburgh a couple of months ago, and have, through, I don't know if you know Ed Lawson on our board, but he's very active around Black Vanilla Community Foundation. And so we've been talking, Climate Act and the communities that most need and deserve it, and how to use placemaking strategies to help the community interests come together, and not just, have access to good things, but own the assets and really set the direction. So that's the longest I will talk. Cynthia.
That's great. So, yeah, so I've kind of come into this from a career at Project for Public Spaces, where I was worked for about over 25 years. And I was sort of moving PPS from, well, sort of into looking at this intersection between placemaking, resilience, and climate adaptation, and how you sort of get the resilience dividend of investing in things like, I don't know, levees and solar panels and sort of backup systems for electrical generation and whatever they were spending a tremendous amount of money on for infrastructure, and looking at, well, what are sort of the drawdowns that can actually benefit communities on a day-to-day basis when the sun is shining and the weather is nice. So if you're going to build a levee because you need to protect flooding, can you put a sports field on top of it? Can you look at improvements to sort of protecting a city hall from the flooding of the archives in the basement, and you're putting a wall around it? Can you make it 18 inches high so it's sittable, and then that creates a raised bed for native plantings and a demonstration garden? Like, can you look at sort of these big top of the line projects and figure out smaller interventions and opportunities for community benefits and education about climate change? And so that's sort of what I've been working on in Hoboken, New Jersey, where I used to live part-time. I live up here now full-time in the town of Olive. Was doing a lot of that, taking millions and hundreds of millions of dollars and using it to create, countdown clocks and bioswales at intersections and curb crossings and water collection tanks on the roof, from the roof of City Hall, to collect water, to do gray water gardening, and these really small interventions that actually had an impact on the quality of people's life. So I've been looking at sort of these intersections of climate resilience and placemaking, and looking for these sort of no-brainer kinds of opportunities to take these ideas and bring them really down to the neighborhood community level. And it's almost like an aha moment when people go, oh, that's what they mean by climate change. Yeah, we're doing crosswalk painting, next to the Rhinebeck High School, well, how is that climate change? Well, we're supporting kids walking to school, so reducing the amount, of carbon, and the fact that moms and parents don't have to drive their kids anymore, and the kids are active and they're walking and they're biking, and all we needed was a crosswalk. And that was like a demonstration project done by high school students last summer. So these are, they check a lot of different boxes. So with the work I've been doing with Melissa, it's sort of looking at who are these partner institutions, and taking these ideas and seeing, can we focus them on a building, a facility, whether it's a library, a hospital, a social service, a community service, or recreation facility, a museum, a university, where there's a physical space where we could sort of model or bring in some of these other more infrastructure ideas, like putting solar panels on the roof, doing a pollinator garden, having the CSA delivered there, lectures, workshops, et cetera, sort of making the building sort of that hub, resilience hub, but also looking at the public spaces around it and opportunities for using that as a jumping off point for bringing more people into the conversation to see what might make sense in their neighborhood. So those are sort of this resilience hub idea. When we piloted this workshop in January, the idea was to sort of present ideas about sort of the intersection of resilience and placemaking and climate adaptation, and how these things play out in rural communities and small towns with very little money, with not a whole lot of investment, and then moving that into an assessment tool. We have this community resilient assessment tool that Melissa and it's a checklist, but it's a way for people then to go to the workshop, come home, get a group of colleagues together, other folks that are in their community. Maybe they're in their a book club, or they do pollinator gardening together, or they're folks that are sort of have this on their radar screen and doing an assessment of how resilient their community is on a number of different levels. And then coming back together and brainstorming ideas for what kinds of projects they think they could undertake that might build on their strengths and address some of their weaknesses. And again, it's all about connecting dots and building on what you have, and sort of that power of 10 notion of incrementally tying things together and tying people together, who are doing interesting things. And we know that there's a lot of amazing things happening, in Newburgh. We were at the community garden what's the name of the park? I'm sorry, I'm in. Yes.
Downing Park, yes.
Right. And
After the conference, we did a walking tour.
And then there's this tree planting initiative. And then there's work that Black Vanilla is doing. And then there's sort of a pollinator beehive group. And then there's the gentleman who's working on the Quissaic River Greenway.
Crusade Creek, yeah.
Yeah, the Quissaic. And it's like, these are all these wonderful little, little fireflies, little dots. And we're like, is there a way that we can kind of figure out ways to kind of bring them together into something that's a more sort of robust initiative that would be attractive to other funders, whether at the federal or the state or the county level, or nonprofit organizations, because these funders love to see unusual partnerships between, like-minded organizations who understand how their missions come together. So that's the other thing, is to say, well, I'm a library. What do I have to do with resilience? I'm a health facility protector. It's sort of understanding how these things are cross-cutting, these issues are cross-cutting, and sort of help organizations achieve their mission in ways they hadn't anticipated. Okay, I'll stop there. I hope I covered everything.
Woo!
What a crew.
Cynthia, I'll just Cynthia, you covered a lot, and I'll just say what you're talking about models our Sustainable Libraries Initiative, the national program I mentioned, really well. Like our whole concept is the idea of intersections and, understanding the connectedness of choices that libraries are making on an everyday basis, from their facilities to their collections, to their programs, to their partnerships, and really trying to build towards more of a collective impact opportunity. So what you're saying aligns very well with what we've been talking about in our profession for the past several years.
Oh, great. Well, I mean, just as far as where we are all at, I think we in this roadmap really got clear that climate resilience is so huge. And, governments are working on like the biggest flood risks and the sea level rise. And, I'm on the extreme heat task force for New York State, which is actually fascinatingly creative. I mean, they're rocking it. But, how you've got Library of Local, you've got the Library Association and its many programs. We've got the Resilient Places Guidebook, the Resilience Assessment, the training. I think the vision that we were having is, one, can we be any kind of a useful catalyst in helping the library facilities to just, say, what have we got done? Can we take a fresh look without, understanding that you're doing that on a regular basis, but just, is there a conversation there? And then we want to create a leadership network of, use this training a lot and have lots of people who may work out of social service agencies, healthcare institutions, schools, local business, lots of people in every community who are thinking about climate resilience and connected to each other. And we want to start getting plans made around libraries just as a first place, so that, this resilience hub idea, you got the building and your property, but what might happen, we were starting to think, if we, looked at some number of block radius or, an organic neighborhood around libraries and got local people thinking, okay, we can do some rain gardens this summer, we can get, a cool roof project going, whatever. So that there's like cohesive stuff that starts with the, the capital stuff that the library does on an ongoing basis, but also the kind of lighter, quicker, cheaper, people-powered stuff that volunteers and groups could do. And, a little here, a little there, and it starts to look like something.
So Melissa, are you thinking of a model where the resilient places training is maybe happening at libraries, and the libraries
Yes.
become like the living laboratory example of bringing some of the concepts to life that you're teaching in that training?
Bingo.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, how does that we're looking at so that was just kind of a general vision, but we really want to throw it open to you on like what parts of that vision resonate, how do they interweave with what you're already thinking and doing?
Well, I'll just share from my part, one of the challenges, Matt and I have been talking about through the Climate Partners and Library Local project is, we've got this vision of libraries as catalysts and conveners, right? So we've got the raw materials, we've got the stuff and the collections and the excitement and the meeting space. We are a community hub, but where's the spark to bring people together, to learn together and ideate together and problem solve together? And it sounds like that's what you're offering to bring to the table with the training you've developed, which I think kind of is that missing link for us in what we've built over the past 3 years.
We got it.
Yay. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Mary Lou's been doing, I think, great jobs kind of like pioneering on her own in Newburgh. I mean, every library Mary Lou's been at, she's been a pioneer, but I think what I can see from afar of what you've been doing, Mary Lou, is really creating that social fabric in Newburgh to build that respect and empathy and understanding people need to have to help each other.
Yes, and thank you for noticing that. It's really my focus, because I so strongly feel that we can't move forward until we have the community on board. And we have to create a trust and a place where people feel that they're respected. And we've really been working over the last couple of years to make that so, being present in the community, being having events and programs that are reflective of the community, not just putting up a sign in Spanish and hoping people who speak Spanish come. But we just had an event on the front plaza. We had over 550 people there, and it was family reading day. And it was a totally bilingual event. And when I first got here, I wondered why we have like 60% Latino population, and I don't see any Latino families in the library. And I got all sorts of excuses for why that wasn't happening. And I said, well, what kind of outreach are we doing? How are we communicating with people? And we really weren't. So it's an effort. Like, you really have to put the effort forward to get out of the building. That's my sign, think outside the building, that I saw at an ALA conference in San Francisco a few years ago. And I so think, we do have that benefit of space, but we need to think how, not only, what are we doing outside of the building, but how are we perceived in the community? And when the community starts to respond to you and to tell you positive things about what they're feeling with the library, then I feel like the ground has been tilled, and the seeds for what we're talking about here can be planted, because the trust is there, rather than try to do it the other way around. I have not found it to work. I think you really have to cultivate and prepare the soil before you plant these seeds.
Oh, nice metaphor there, Mary Lou.
I spent all the yesterday planting, so it's like, it's in my head. Work is getting in the way of my gardening. So I'm carrying it over here.
We're all there. Anyway, this is great. And I've been in the library over the years, and I see how much like the kids in the community use the computers, and just, what a resource it is.
Well, we have a connection with Nuffy, the Urban Farm, and also Our Core, which is the teen initiative within the urban gardening program. And they created our seed library, which they took a card catalog and turned into this gorgeous, beautifully painted seed library. And the teens run that. But we're in the process of buying a community fridge, so that Nuffy, the urban farm up at Downing Park, and also the garden that's right off the parking lot here that the teens operate, when they have leftovers, they can put it in a local, our lobby, basically, where everybody comes, the school district, the library patrons. So it's visible, and it's again another partnership, because we have the place. They don't have the place. People aren't going to come to the garden to do that during the week, but they will come to the library, and they'll be able to access whatever they like in the lobby. So it's maximizing the access.
Okay, that's great. Do we think that there is the seed of something here to keep the seed metaphor going?
Totally.
Yeah, I think the very simplest idea of hosting trainings at some of the libraries that we've identified from Newburgh and maybe some of the LOL locations, at the very minimum, I hope we're on the same page. That would be a good idea.
Oh, yeah. I think that's great.
Yeah, we were thinking of doing one in June. What do we think? The 14th and the 26th or something? And we were going to pitch it to Kingston.
Yeah. The 14th and the 28th.
Okay. Just what worked for calendars, but we could do, what if we did one in the Mid Hudson and one in the Catskill Ramapo to start?
Mhm.
But if we tried to get people from multiple libraries and multiple areas to it.
Yeah, I just think we need a little more lead time than June. Our
Yeah.
folks are booked out six weeks in minimum. So I think we just need a little more lead time.
And
Yeah.
it's summer prep stuff.
Summer's the busiest time in libraries, so it's tough to get free up staff for training, professional development training at that point. But if we're looking for not just library people, but community members to come together as well, we also need a longer lead time to advertise.
Yeah, because I'm thinking that it might be nice to have, we like to have these sort of cohorts where it's, if we did it, for example, in Newburgh, we'd have the Newburgh Library, then we would have the the usual suspects and partners that we know, then the unusual suspects or people maybe from local, churches or other community organizations, sort of the local ambassadors and leaders of different communities coming together so that there would be more sort of vertical integration between folks that are doing things in their neighborhood, whether it's, it's potluck suppers, whatever, with other people that are doing more things that are sort of funded by the county. So we could do it where it's specific to a particular community or library. That's one type of training. And then the other is what we did last in January, which was a cohort of people from a variety of different libraries, more like a peer-to-peer opportunity of this is what we're doing. Hey, that's a great idea. Maybe we'll try that. We tried this. We had a problem. Oh, we solved that. Sort of in that way. And then this is the tool. You can take the tool back to your own libraries, put your own cohorts of folks together from your community, do the assessment and do your own brainstorming. So there were, if you understand, there were sort of two
Yeah, that's
different-
super.
That's
Yeah, that's
great.
very helpful
Yeah.
to have those kind of categorized like that.
Yeah, so there's
Yeah.
two of, at least that we could probably come up with 8 more. But 2 ways of really sort of concept thinking about how do we pull people together. One is more of a not higher level, but across libraries, like for the library of local cohort, for example, we could do a training or something with them and see how they use these tools and deploy it and what comes back, which
Yeah.
helps us refine it. And then we could go a deep dive into a particular library and community.
And that might be the way to start if we did the peer-to-peer version to educate more library folks about this kind of language that the 4 of us are speaking fairly fluently is not necessarily coming naturally to a lot of the other library leaders in the region. So upping their game on this topic and giving them the chance to get a leg up and understanding their opportunity to be that catalyst in their community, and then maybe seeing how we could plant the kind of community-based specific versions amongst the folks that really get excited during the peer-to-peer opportunity might be the way to really get traction on it in community.
We do annually this Climate Solutions Week. And
Yeah.
it is this year, September 16th through 24th. So it's a 9-day week with 2 weekends in it.
What are the
And
dates again, Melissa?
September 16th through 24th. I'm just about to send out a blast announcing that. It might be interesting to really put some oomph into getting library leaders and social service leaders and, people with a lot of community reach into a substantial, workshop, substantial dive of some kind.
What
for
if we
that.
did something along the lines of the Repair Cafe, but was like an Earth Cafe? Where you got together and you had all these different places, just like you have the sewing machine lady and you have the TV repair guy, but you have the different organizations in town and the various things that they're doing that that kind of, you build that community of support. People know what's going on, and again, it's sustainable, it's spreading the word, but it's also building community. So thought maybe it could be the Earth Repair Cafe.
Yeah, there's a
Repair the
lot of
Earth Cafe.
variations of that kind of Earth Fest. Kingston just did one of
Yeah.
those. It's like Newburgh Illuminated, only different.
Yeah. Right,
But
right, right.
I think I'm thinking there needs to be a real dive for leaders who are responsible for constituents, who, if hopefully the future will just be sweet and we won't have to worry, but in case there's a horrible heat wave or whatever it is, thinking, how do we up the resilience game? How do we, make facilities that can really nurture people and help people recover from an emergency? How do we push out real knowledge? There could, like, I don't know if you know, Yonkers Groundwork has this program called Climate Safe Neighborhoods. And they do a map analysis with people, looking at where the tree cover is and isn't, and where the pervious pavement is, and all this, tree cover, flood risk, Hida Island. And then they use it as a catalyst to start thinking, what do we, want to do to remake our places? But they managed to get local people like steeped enough in learning about land use and these different techniques that, they really are kind of ambassadors. And I think, and that's also the Repair Cafe model of the coaches who have an ongoing commitment. So I'm thinking if we were to do some maybe seeding activities, I keep coming back to that word. I'm tempted, I'm thinking Cynthia and I should still do what we were talking about doing in June. And just let it be a light and lively introduction for those who can make it.
Where is it? Where are you doing this?
We were thinking Kingston, but we haven't, Margie doesn't know this yet.
It's all right, she'll be into it.
Yeah. I mean,
If her space is
fun.
available, I'm sure she'll say yes, but her, they booked that space out pretty far. So
Yeah,
I'd encourage you to reach out to her.
Yeah. I mean, would it make sense to do Newburgh since here we are? Just to.
I don't know.
would you
I mean,
rather wait?
It depends on what it is. Like, are you going to need indoor space, outdoor space? Because we head into our summer stuff too. I just need a framework. I'm game for anything.
It's what we did before, and I'm distracted because Buttercup the cat has just knocked the cat food can onto the floor, and whether she's able to open it is going
She's
to be.
having fun.
She's taken over. I mean, go ahead, Cynthia.
Yeah, I'm sort of a mind that I think I'd like to sort of craft this with our partners and sort of, I like this idea of the peer-to-peer program and then getting people excited and then rolling it out in a library and have it take more of a form. I really feel like the January workshop was great. We got a number of people that were very new to their communities and really didn't know what was, they'd only lived there for a few months or they were only in their job for, a couple of months. I don't know that we need to sort of pilot it again. I'm kind of thinking that maybe.
All right. Okay. So just do
Like not rush it, but like
do
sort of.
September and get traction.
Yes, I think that.
So just to
If
give
there's-
you kind of like the lay of the land for the library folks, like we have the next month is very intense because we're helping the state do the Connect All broadband survey and evaluation. So our focus really is there until June 15th. And then summer reading program kicks off and right after school ends. So our staff, our buildings are very engaged at least until the end of July in that work, if not further into August. So the world doesn't really open up for professional development for the most part until the fall. So I don't know if we want to use the climate solutions week as, I don't know where that lands in our thinking, or even if it does need to land in the thinking for this, because for me, I feel starting with the professional development for my library of local folks and Mary Lou and her staff and anyone else in Rancho Catskill who's interested, I really need my library of local folks to up their game and like see the potential here. So I'm super interested in what training for them might look like in this year. Are you open to that?
We're open to whatever you need.
Yeah.
We are the
Yeah.
queens of flexibility. I mean, what would be your ideal timeline?
Well, I mean, my ideal timeline was I would have known about this and thought about it, last December, and we'd be having it now.
Yeah,
Oops.
but
'Cause I
September
am
would be good.
I'm convening my folks this summer to kind of chat about the future of the Library of Local. So it'd be neat to be able to say, hey, in this fall, we're going to launch this training that you'll be a part of, and that might work for us. I think summertime, between summer reading program, vacations, like their brains just aren't in the game at that level, really.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, would it be useful for one of us to swoop into that meeting for 5 minutes and be introduced?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I nominate Cynthia.
Just let me know when. Let me know when, and I'll be
All right. Well, we're about to book it. So Cynthia, you'll be able to respond to the poll as well and make sure we have a date that works for everyone.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, that sounds great. And then, so, I mean, the calendars are still open, so you could determine you know, when you wanted to do that training. And then, I mean, the idea would be that community outreach follows,
Mhm.
and that October and November are good for community outreach, and then December is bad for community outreach. So we would be trying to do stuff, you know, fairly nimbly, but it's ongoing work. So I mean, maybe we'd even be thinking that there are some like points on the calendar that we imagine farther ahead.
Mhm.
Why don't we start maybe like a joint Google document and start kind of laying out our, you know, describing our purpose statement and thinking about the timeline that works for all of us, and maybe trying to create something that has a progression to it.
Mhm.
Yeah, that sounds great. And so it's getting library leadership on board, and then it's potentially reaching out to other kind of brass tops leadership
Mhm.
and having some sort of experimental activities even, where as the library leadership gets trained, I'm guessing they'll want, it would be, yeah, they'll want to do something. If the training is successful, it will result in them itching to do something,
Right.
you know,
That's
and so we should have a something thought up that is October or November, maybe even just you know, walk around your library with some of your stakeholders and start thinking about stuff. Or, you know, we could, if the different libraries wanted to schedule workshops around resilient places, you know, each at their own convenience, or working a few libraries at a time.
We
I'm
could start to
thinking-
introduce the concept through these programs. I mean, we can do that anytime, you know, you can have, you know, we could schedule a program and we could say that it's part of this initiative, and let people know that something more is coming in the fall, and, you know, just start to lay the groundwork.
Mhm. I mean, we could put it, you know, we could give you something for your newsletters,
Mhm.
um, or a little something for the website. We've got,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know, if maybe we start there, we put more in the Google Doc. I'm starting to, my head is just exploding.
Yeah, sorry, no problem. I need to get going in a few minutes. I have another meeting at 10. So I wonder if maybe that's where we are today. We start that doc, throw our notes in it from our conversation today, and iterate that, and maybe follow up with each other in 2 or 3 weeks to nail some stuff down.
Okay, and
That's good.
will you loop in Matt?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, great. Okay,
Melissa, you'll share the recording with Mary Lou and I, so she can share it with Ben. I'll share it with Matt. And I'll follow up.
okay, that's a good plan, and I'll start the doc, and the proposal draft write-up that I promised you is almost ready. I'm just like, something wasn't working for me and sequentially, but I got it mostly edited this morning.
Okay.
Okay, because maybe that is something that we can use, put into this document as well, if it's coherent and succinct, which I'm sure it'll be.
Yes, it will be, especially if nobody bugs me in the next 20 minutes, it will be.
Okay.
Good luck with that.
Okay, I have a feeling this is a pretty high-powered brain trust, and I'm loving it.
Cool.
This is-
Thanks for pulling us together. It's nice to
Yeah.
work with smart people.
Yeah, it is. It's a pleasure. Okay, so we
All
will.
right,
continue
recording
to
and
item
things
8.
are coming.
All right, excellent. I'll see you later.
Okay,
Right.
bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. This is terrific. Really great.